Welcome to Future Foodcast. I'm Pamela Miller, your host. I am so excited to welcome Christian Sobolta to our show today. He is the managing director of CSM Ingredients Group, and he has a wealth of knowledge about innovation and business and all in the food industry. So, welcome to our show, Christian.
Thank you, Pam. Great to be part of your broadcast. I love it, and I'm looking forward to exchange with you.
Well, I can't wait for you to share with our audience some of what you do and some of your future thoughts about what's going on in the food industry. But first of all, why don't you tell us all about CSM Ingredients Group and then you're part of that?
Yeah, happy to do so. So CSM Ingredients Group has 100 years plus heritage, basically. If you look back to the history of the group, what's behind it. But at the end of the day, if you look at our recent history, it's a carve out of the history. We cover very much the heritage of all the bakery and pastry industry, especially in Europe, but also globally. And out of this heritage, driving everyday's pastry and bakery needs, what's beautiful products across the globe. If it's in the US, in Europe, in Asia, it's part of our diet, it's part of our culture, it's part of the breakfast. That's where the origin is of our company. And on the journey, what we decided is to move and buy different companies, to put them together as a group, to drive an end-to-end ingredients experience across different industries. And that's in the meantime, three big buckets. Once it's the BU foods, everything what's fruit related. Then we have a big part what's linked to ice cream, what's also a beautiful product. And then the heritage parts, what's bakery and pastry, enhanced with special ingredients who drive nutritional impact. But all of the three business divisions are driven by sustainability and also giving innovation into the area. Because as you see, in all areas, the consumers play a key role. And that's who we are as a CSM group. We represent two parts of it. It's a bakery part, pastry part, and then especially also the value-added ingredients part. What's the origin? A young company called HIFOOD, who drives cleaner and leaner ingredients into the areas. So what you see, we have a heritage, but at the same time, we are very young and we are combining different knowledges. And the combination makes us also the force of innovation for the food industry, but driven by consumer demands and the outlook also what we see. And happy to share you some exciting things ongoing in our organization.
Yeah, that's what I like actually from what you're talking about is that you have this base and this heritage, as you said, that's 100 years old. However, you're very future thinking and forward looking to utilize the best of what's available now to bring the best to the consumers moving forward. And that's really where a lot of your focus is. I mean, I personally would like to talk about ice cream for the whole show, but I know that we're going to talk about other topics. I'm kidding. But that's kind of everyone's favorite, so I'm happy that you're involved in that category. But
Absolutely.
you're really involved in technology and innovation, and let's dive into that a little bit because you have a lot of experience with that.
But if you look at technologies, if one area what's driving, I think it's also a subject what drives the different exchanges. What you did, what gives me also energy is about blockchain, talking about how you track data and how data transparency can help to improve product quality, but also giving transparency to the consumers. And that's something what's also embedded in our activities, what we're doing. Because you can imagine being in the bakery space, a key ingredient is flour. The flour, everyone knows of us. We enjoy having it also privately while we are baking. But very often we don't ask where's the flour coming from? What's the origin? What can I do with that? We follow some guidance, what we get through our recipe books, out of our grandma, our friends. But if you look from an industry perspective, there are two aspects what drives us. One's tracing the raw material, where it's really coming from, where blockchain is helping a lot. But secondly, also if you look at ancient grains, because we're looking at the heritage, we know very much white flour, but there's so many different type of flours out there, where the origin, where it's coming from, and how it goes. And that's one of our key innovations. What we are working also, it's called ancient grain, where we're working with farmers in special areas where we grow our own flour grains and we process them and give like that full data transparency, but we're increasing also new experience for consumers, not just for where it's coming from, but you're creating then also bakery and pastry products with a complete new experience. And that's one of the key areas what we're doing. where data connectivity is also key one. And that's something what drives me as well a lot, being also passionate coffee drinker, needing also vanilla at the end of the day for the ice cream. All these ingredients have a big demand on transparency to give everyone a clear understanding what source of raw materials we have and where it's coming from and who was behind the work, because it's precious people who are doing all the work. And we are part of this journey, especially in the bakery space.
Yeah, which is really neat. You know, technology has now enabled, it's no longer on a clipboard passing from person to person with the
Yeah,
shipment of ingredients. We're able to track the data. That allows you to have analytics, also the factual information. Nobody's changing anything along the way. I mean, it's in the system and able to be retrieved and accessed and utilized on the back end. And I imagine that's good for quality also in the manufacturing process because you know what's happening. And we as consumers want that transparency. We're demanding to know where our food is coming from and what the quality is.
absolutely. And
Yeah.
and basically with the background where I used to come from, I spent also quite a lot of time in data collection from a consumer perspective. Because that's at the end of the day the next data point what you need to have. We know a lot of food companies, all of us, creating a lot of new great ideas, but we know there's truly a moment of truth. The consumer buys the product, he enjoys it, and he buys it again. But how you can also capture these data chains is also what we're driving. Because as CSM, when I told you our heritage, we are selling to bakers and pastry shops. So in some key markets, we have access to more than 7,000 shops. So it means 7,000 times we have chance to connect with consumers who are tasting our ideas and products and providing us also feedback. And that's extremely valuable because if you look at the handcrafted industry, the craftsmanship industry, is also influencing the big industry players at the end of the day and the retailers. And that's the second part on the journey. So from the raw material, understanding also the concept development, checking it and testing it with the consumers gives us insights also to guide the co-development with the big retailers or with the big food manufacturing companies, because they're looking for inspiration from the craftsmanship very often.
Yes.
And the consumer who goes to the craftsmanship shop is the same consumer who goes also to the retailer. So we are connecting also this data journey there. What helps our development teams also to drive the right solution. And that's something what's quite unique because we're covering not just the industry channel, what's extremely relevant and fast growing, but the craftsmanship is enhancing also consumer insight, what's so far untapped in the industry. And we are quite proud to pioneer this space.
Wow. Yeah, you're very innovative across I guess several platforms of added ingredients, right?
Yeah,
And you're transparent about that. Um,
yeah,
Fats,
absolutely.
proteins, I mean you can speak to
Yeah,
what those are.
all of them. You're already on top of it. It's an area like I said. It starts first. What's the data we want to collect? So having full transparency out of it. But then at the end of the day, it's also about where do we want to drive added value. That's why we called also our innovation platforms added value platforms. And what we do, it's called added value protein. Everything what's linked to protein enhancement. What drives it's a big category. We know we talk about it, but that's a key area where we're working on it to make the consumer experience stronger. Then we have added value fats. What's the key area? Because at the end of the day, there's a lot of great fat sources used. It's very important for the moment of indulgence in any product we're having, but driving also new sources of added value fats from a sustainability standpoint. We all know the subject about palm oil. It's a very beautiful and great product, but there are areas where it's relevant to be used, and there are areas where we can also replace it, where it can have a big impact also on the environment. And we're looking also at this platform very much behind it. The third platform is added value carbohydrates, because we know sugar is something beautiful, but measuring also the sugar intake without losing at the pastry product, the moment of indulgence is something what we're working also very strongly because we see we can drive added value. Because sugar is not just a taste driver, it also gives a bulking into it. And that's one of the big challenges in the food industry to say, how can we get the bulking part plus the sweetness covered? And that's where we're putting a lot of efforts in our innovation activities. No, no.
Yeah, just provide the craftsman with the best value product you can to then answer your consumer insights that you're seeing. I mean, that's what's driving your innovation.
Indeed, indeed, indeed. And linked to the platforms as transparency is the key one. We call the next platform cleaner and leaner as well, because transparency means also having clean labels, not having any e numbers on it. But if it's no e numbers, having also leaner ingredients list behind it and understanding also the transparency behind. And that's also activities we do a lot through our HIFOOD innovation platform. We're helping companies to take few ingredients out and replace it by one without losing the technology benefit. And that's what we do in a lot of cooperation by ourselves, but also with our partners in the different areas. And there's a big area and benefit we bring is the application knowledge, because the same ingredient in different application has a different role. And we help like that to understand better the performance of the innovation solutions.
Very good. For our worldwide audience, Christian, would you
Yeah,
mind describing on the label you referred to eliminating, I think you said E numbers?
yeah.
Is that in Europe?
Yeah,
What
it's in Europe for
and
sure.
what
Yeah,
is
thank
that
you.
to those of us that are in other parts of the
It's
world?
it's
Um,
it's like artificial ingredients in the
okay.
US, you would call them, and ingredients who have a technical add what needs to be claimed and described. And we are looking to have natural sourced, what's fully 100% natural, and
Yeah,
can be claimed as a fiber, as a carbohydrate, or any other ingredient. And like that, you have a better and cleaner understanding about what's inside and where it's coming from. Thank
perfect.
you for asking.
Yes, no, I just like to keep explaining and educating our audience. So thank you for indulging me on that. Speaking of indulging, we as consumers, we're not quick to change. I mean, we get used to what we eat and how it tastes and what the mouthfeel is. And so your challenge is a large one, actually, as you try to, slowly move us along to maybe getting away from some of those ingredients that are worse for us, but that have been in our products into cleaner label, but simulating or making it as easy as possible for us to transition. So, you
Yeah.
have any thoughts on that? How to
It's
help
it's it,
consumer
it,
behavior?
Yeah, it's a beautiful reflection you share because it's true, and that's something what I'm saying. I'm now more than 2 decades in the food space, and I love it. Being in flavors, being at chocolate, being at data driven, and now in the bakery space. A key observation, something what you said: consumers love to eat food. It's part of our heritage, but changing it takes slow. So I'm saying we talk all about innovation, but if we talk about innovation and consumers, there's three areas in our human life where innovation happens very slowly. It happens once sleeping, giving you the example, testing the mattress. 1,000 years ago, you were lying down and you said, it's too hard. So you were making it by yourself a bit softer. Today, we do exactly the same. We go to a shop, depending on where we live, what's our background, what's our budget, we choose certain areas, but then we go into the shop, we lie down and we test one, two, three. And there's one moment we say, here I feel comfortable, and you buy it. Isn't the mattress more technology and more innovation than 50 years or 100 years ago? Yes. Is the consumer perceiving it as innovation? No. Because for them, you give a moment where they feel secure and where it's good for them. And that's also the big responsibility we have in the food space at the end of the day, because consumers want to have a product they feel comfortable with. And Pam, you were interviewing already different peers and different companies, and the protein, the meat alternate place, the dairy alternate place is growing a lot. And myself, I'm more than 2 decades behind it. And there are some pioneering companies 2 decades ago, they were niche. When did the tipping point happen for them? It was at the moment the product was tasting and looking very similar to the reference product. And that takes some time. You clearly showed it. And that's why it's a big responsibility also we have to understand. Sometimes we have solutions who are ready, but we need to adjust them step by step. And that's why I want to make the bridge to the consumer insights, what we have. Having access to the bakers, testing ideas, we understand how easy it's able to transform them and to scale them also in a bigger area. And that's a big responsibility. In the food industry area, if you launch 10 products on the shelf, we know after 12 to 18 months, one will stay on the shelf. Did the other nine fail? I would say no. It was 9 times a moment of learning to keep improving products. And that's we as a B2B supplier contributing into it to accelerating the development time. And there you're absolutely right. Innovation in food is beautiful, but it has a different pace and a different responsibility also for all the players who are active in this space.
Yeah, because the end consumer is not a robot. And actually, the experience, like you said, we experience food, that it's part of our culture.
Yeah.
It's part of our building relationships with friends and family, celebration. There's so much for us around food. And it is a really an important focal point. But you've done very well in that area. I think during your overview of CSM Ingredients, you mentioned HIFOOD, who is an award-winning, that's who it's an award-winning segment of what you're doing. I wonder if you could explain that a little bit because there's been some great success there.
Yeah, so it's also linked on HIFOOD is one of the companies specialized for value-added ingredients, all natural origin.
Yeah.
And embedded with that, we said part of open innovation, if you call it, it's very often used. I'm calling it open collaboration. So what we started to do as CSM, we said, we are very strong in certain areas like fruit, ice cream, and bakery and pastry. We have now a company who drives value-added ingredients. So we start connecting the dots to understand how we can drive really impact. One of them was microprotein. Basically, protein is great, but if you add them into the product, it starts getting a bit dusty and dry. And you don't like dusty and dry products. But so we developed a technology, what's also award-winning prize got it, and we understood how to start using this protein and applying it in a different type of application to make it also perform extremely strong. And that's one out of our innovations, what we got out of it. The same we did in corporations with a fats company of taking our knowledge on proteins and the knowledge of the fat company. And we created then a plant-based mirror tissue, is the technology called, also award-winning last year, where we're able to create a fat solution, what mimics in meat-based products, meat-free products, the same fat sensation without using tropical oils, what's also extremely important.
Yeah.
And that shows you a little bit our DNA. So we say whatever we can do, we do it with partners in our platform companies
Yeah.
or with the right partners outside. What's also a little bit embedded, what we're going to cover is our open innovation hub, Generate, what's called, what shows you a little bit a principle behind it. And I will happy to share a little bit what we do there.
Yeah, I would love to hear about Generate, but first I just want to acknowledge the word collaborate that you brought up because a lot of you, I mean, we have interviewed a lot of food industry experts here on Future Foodcast, and the food industry has traditionally been very siloed,
Yes.
where you know people are doing their thing and very hesitant to collaborate and be transparent as you're talking about. So just even that that process that you're sharing right now is
Yeah.
innovative in itself, really. And I think it's going to help everyone. Everyone can rise to the occasion when you can collaborate and you focus on what you do best and bring in partners and other collaborators
Yeah.
that do their thing best. And together you can really, you know, put down, crash down the walls. I mean, break down the walls that have been standing. So that's very exciting. So I'd like to hear
Absolutely.
about Generate as well.
Yeah, no, but on the collaboration piece, Pam, because it's something what drives me a lot since I'm in the industry, because that's what you described as the food industry. Everyone says they are open, but to a certain extent. And what I learned, and that's also in the flavors and fragrance world, we cut it down the research time from 10 years to 5 years, back
Wow.
then 15 years ago, just to open up the partners so that you see who can do certain research or scanning quicker. But moving from 10 to 5 is already great. But the
Yeah.
question is, how can you move even further down the road? And over the years, I realized that companies open up, but they need to have the same DNA and the same thinking. And that's what we saw, like I shared with you the mirror tissue example before. Normally, this type of development would have taken 3 to 4 years on average. From idea to a award-winning moment, it took us exactly 6 months.
Wow. That's a great acceleration.
But why is it possible? It's because the humbleness on both areas to say where are limitation and where are the strengths, and you put the strengths together and you prove it. And being also open quick enough to say we stop a project, because that's also something in the food industry. Sometimes you keep going quite long instead of doing fast prototyping. Understand the performance. If it's good, you continue. If not, you stop, and you have one story more. You develop the learning. That's why I
Yeah.
think failures and open learning from each other is a key part to open collaboration. And
Yeah.
it means in all direction, to universities, to startups, but also to your ingredient suppliers and your customers. And putting the right parties together, the benefit comes quick learning, quick execution. But the most important one, you develop very quickly solutions and you test them together. What's the benefit for the food industry? And I call it afterwards also the divide and conquer model, because what's also very clear, all of us in the food industry, we love the consumers, but none of us has 100% access to all of them. So basically, you have also commercial benefit afterwards, because you start pushing the same solution to a broader audience and you get a better attraction as well. So it's a win-win, not just from an innovation perspective, but at the end of the day, it helps also the companies to accelerate the growth.
Yeah, the possibility of mass adoption is very intriguing as well. But I think about you talking about getting together and being able to achieve faster, also fail faster. So you can discard those ideas that are not going to get you to the end, learn from them, and move to the next idea that's going to be or succeed.
Yeah.
So the faster you can fail, the faster you can succeed, essentially, because you're
Yeah.
eliminating choices along the way.
Yeah. And they're
Yeah.
also open invitation to all who are listening. Each them good to connect together. And there, Pam, you're a great platform of connecting as well, to put the ones companies with the same mindset and put opportunities on the table and see what we can do. Open invite to all of us to continue involving and developing this industry stronger and quicker.
Yeah, we very much encourage that. Please, we will have all the links for CSM Ingredients and in the show notes. So please connect and share and collaborate. That would be fantastic. Well, let's get back to what's going on with CSM Ingredients, because you're moving forward, you're growing, you're collaborating with others, you're looking to expand, moving in the future.
Yeah, clearly that's areas to go. As I shared with you, our heritage is Europe, but we are very strong present in Asia, China, and in the Asian region. And a key market what we entered as well is the US market. What's moving a lot, very very quick, especially with the cleaner and leaner aspect, what we covered before, is a space where we see a lot of traction, and we also stepping in strongly into the Latin American market. So that are areas what we are doing across all the different categories, with the same motivation to drive innovation towards the different consumers. And
Yeah.
that's where we're active. But if you see the key markets where we are growing is the US, the Americas, or the Latin area, Europe and Asia. And we start exploring also now recently the Middle East region. It's a fast growing region of disruptive open innovation activities and collaboration, where we see also a lot of opportunities to drive this force of innovation in this region at the moment.
Exciting. And we have listeners in all those areas. So hopefully, this will reach some of the great collaborators of your future. That would be exciting, I think, for me
Yeah.
to find out about that. I'll have to check back with you. Well, is there anything else about CSM Ingredients you would like to share? Because I'd also like to ask you about your personal journey.
One subject was the Generate. I shared a little bit the mindset behind it. So Generate is a open innovation hub, what we call it, because you see cultural transformation. I was sharing with you that we are a connection of different companies with different heritage. And that's beautiful because it shows the power of it. But you need to also start generating a different way of thinking and working. And the Generate Innovation Hub is used in a threefold way for us. First of all, to drive innovation, like I described it already before, with partners externally, but also between our companies, to get ideas, test them, and see how we can bring them on the market across the different activities. But the second big part, I'm a big believer in the startup ecosystem. And what we are doing there on Generate, there's different models of supporting startups, but Generate is driving one source we give access to application knowledge. Because very often with startups, most companies are occupied about the IP, to protect the IP, linked to a little bit the discussion we had before. I want to own it so that I don't need to share it with everyone else. The difference, what we do with our Generate program, we open up our innovation teams to the different startups with three purposes. First of all, we say you own your IP because it's your idea. And it gives already an easier base to discuss, to fast track also collaboration. And what do we offer to the startup? There's two things. We give them the bench expertise, because a lot of startups have great ingredients, great ideas, but they don't know how to apply it afterwards in fruit, in ice cream, or in bakery. And we can give them this expertise to say, how can these ingredients be used? For us, it's a fantastic learning because we understand very quickly is the benefits out of the ingredient. And if we realize that the benefit is there, the third element, what we offer to the startups, is we say we help you to commercialize it. We give the route to market, what also most startups don't have. Mm-hmm. And out of this spirit, what's driving my day-to-day of collaboration, we connect also the startups with our peers in a different field, because we don't have any point of competition behind it. Because we believe to make startups grow and be faster means also to open up for them the ecosystem of different food players. And you saw a lot of startups who were just linked to one company. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, the success rates are low. The ones where you give them access to the whole ecosystem, you accelerate the growth. And that's what Generate stays for us. So it helps us internally to connect the dots to be quicker. But most importantly, we are very proud of connecting with young startups, helping them, helping us, helping the ecosystem to develop better products in the different platforms where we drove it. And that's also a key driver of our success of growth behind it, because you start connecting the ecosystem on a broader way. And at the end of the day, each time with one goal, impacting the beautiful consumers across the globe to make a tasteful moment for them.
Well, I hope our listeners are hearing not only the execution of it or the how you're doing what you're doing, but the attitude that you're bringing to that. I think that's really the first most important piece that needs to maybe change in some areas of the food industry, where others will bring that collaborative attitude and that, that open, transparent, not so much the competition piece,
yes.
that they're going to be competing with us, but how can we help them? I mean, there's benefits to you as well, but you're also sharing some of your industry knowledge and that scalability piece, which startups often lack. They don't know how to get to market, how to scale it up commercially, and
yes.
And you can share that, and that's very, very generous. So. Anyone who's listening, please connect with them. Generate sounds like a great innovation hub to be a part of. Thanks for sharing
Thanks,
that.
Ben. No, it was a pleasure.
Yeah. Well, what would you like to share from your personal journey? Because you bring a lot. I think a lot of culture. I like the way you're thinking and applying that to what you're doing now. But I don't know. I mean, what have you done before that's brought you to this collaborative, open? You're very much looking to the future, looking to help everyone innovate, rising. Many companies, not just yours.
Yeah, good to myself personally. With the food industry, you fall in love. And for me, was the moment I was just 16 years, as you can hear out of my accent, a German accent with Polish origin. And in Germany, there's a concept of apprenticeship. So it's like 3 years, you go work and you go to school at the same time.
Yeah.
And it starts quite young. And for me, it was the moment I was 16, I entered into a factory and I smelled chocolate and I fall in love. I said, I want to work here. So basically, if you look at me, it started all joining into a chocolate factory. So that's where I started working, developing and producing beautiful chocolates. And if you experience once food, what it does to yourself, because you wake up in the morning, you're hungry. Basically, in the evening, you say, I will not eat anything anymore tomorrow. But in the morning, you're again hungry. And that's something beautiful. And this is where the curiosity started from my side. So I started my background is in the chocolate industry, where I understood the power of this sensation, what happens to you. And then you get also very quickly understand what type of ingredients are used. And I had close to 18 years in the flavors and fragrance industry, working there in different roles. And if you get exposed to the flavors and fragrance industry, you get exposed to all industries, because it's from the perfume to soaps to savory products to ice cream, what we both love, to confectionery, across all the different categories. And that opened up a whole world. And when I was in the middle of that, I realized that this world has a big, big need of connecting a lot of areas, because back then I was developing ideas for the big brands. Everyone was looking for something unique.
Yeah.
And you were also selling for everyone something unique. But I saw back then already that there's a big need of driving open innovation and open collaboration related to that. And through the career, because as my background now, I'm looking as a managing director as a P&L activities. But my background is a product developer. So basically, I spent a lot of time at the bench working with ingredients. And that was driving each time my curiosity as well. So even today, if I have the chance, I prefer having a lab coat and playing with the ingredients to understand afterwards how you can use it. And that was driving my career very much. And on this background, being in fragrances, I built up innovation hubs. So the startup space in the meantime is very well established. But there were some pioneering companies like the Givaudan, the Bühlers of the world, who are building open innovation with Mass Challenge and big hubs to connect different companies. And that's what got me also open into the startup space. So I decided to get out of the corporate world. And I've spent also a few years with startups in the digital space, each time in food, to help them to grow. I'm a passionate coffee drinker. So if you love drinking coffee, I decided also to create my own coffee roastery in the Swiss Alps, wood fire roasted coffee. Mm. And this experience across the different industry is giving me also now the energy with joining CSM, creating something completely new, because I was in different areas. And I realized if you're in different areas, you learn and have an empathy for these areas. Being in a startup, it's a different way. Being in the fragrance world, it's a different way of working in flavors, a chocolate producer. And at CSM now, we are connecting all of that. And this background gives me a lot of energy. And that's a little bit about myself. So if I wake up in the morning, I'm looking forward to create value for our consumers. And there I realize that innovation and the product is the power at the end of the day, where it connects us all, because that's a beautiful thing. Also, if you meet with customers, with ingredient companies, you talk, you have PowerPoint presentation, but then if you taste the product, that's where we start making an impact together to make this world a more nutritional and a more sustainable food industry. And it's energizing to see what's happening there. So that's a little bit about myself, but that's just the beginning. Still a lot ahead of us.
Well, thank you for sharing that great story. And as you were doing that, I was thinking, I'm sure you weren't the first person whose life was transformed from chocolate, from tasting chocolate. I'm sure you won't be the last life that chocolate impacts, but I love that it's brought you from that beginning to where you are now, because I think there's a lot of people benefiting from that. So that's very exciting. Well, I really appreciate you being with us today. Christian, I've loved having a conversation with you. And to our audience, thank you for listening. Please connect with CSM Ingredients and check out what they're doing. Until next time, I'm Pam Linemiller.
Thanks for listening to Future Foodcast. Future Foodcast is powered by Farm to Plate, the leading food blockchain platform. Subscribe on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts to stay up to date with the very latest innovations in the food industry.